Doug Ford said today that he is calling on the federal government to implement a 50% retaliatory tariff on U.S. steel and aluminum if no trade deal is reached with the United States by August 1st. In that press conference, he said that Canada is the United States' biggest customer, which is true. And he said the Americans shouldn't be treating their biggest customer so poorly. And I'll be honest, Doug Ford is not lying. Canada buys more goods from the United States than China, the United Kingdom, Japan, and France all combined. And to add to that, we are the number one supplier of crude oil and electricity to the United States. Canada is also the number one supplier of potash to the United States. Without us, U.S. farmers cannot grow their crops. Don't listen to Donald Trump when he says that the U.S. isn't thinking about Canada right now. Canada has more cards to play than anybody else. We are the most important customer and the most important supplier to the United States.
So beautiful people, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you for stopping by, supporting your girl on this channel. So credit goes to the creators in these videos. And guys, in today's video, so today let's talk about the drama between the US and Canada, right? And you have guessed right from the title, it's about trade. So in August 2025, we are still in August, right? Under Trump's influence, Canada was slapped a 35% tariff, right, on a bunch of Canadian goods that were not covered under the USMCA. That is the Mexico-Canada-US agreement, right? And this is such a big deal because it makes Canadian products way more expensive in the United States, which should not be so. Why? Two reasons. Number one, Canada supported Palestinian statehood, right? And Trump was not having it. And the second reason is that the US is mad about Canada's digital service tax. According to them, they say it unfairly targets American tech giants. Wahala, right? And as a result, these trade talks basically stopped cold. There is no new deal and no immediate plans to restart negotiation. But guess what? Canada is standing strong. They are not panicking because the Prime Minister Mark said, and I quote, they are not rushing into any bad deals just to get something done. They are taking their time, okay? And Trade Minister Dominic is staying hopeful and is like, we'll get back to the table eventually. But for now, let's see what happens. Let's see what these creators have to say. And I'll see you soon.
Mark Carney's taking a lot of flack from the right. They're saying that he's been a disaster for Canada. He failed to get a good trade deal with Donald Trump while Europe and Japan successfully negotiated a trade deal for themselves, and he's left Canada exposed. But take a step back. Look what happened on August the 1st. The economic data started to trickle in for the United States economy. And folks, it's bad. It's really bad. The US economy is a little bit like the Titanic. You need huge numbers to start to show any movement in the US economy. And possibly, just possibly, because Mark Carney is a world-class economist, he was sitting back and looking at the numbers coming in over the last few months, and he was aware that the US economy was starting to sputter. Well, it's not sputtering now, it's choking itself to death. And it looks like that deal that Europe negotiated actually will not be passed in the European Parliament because they'll never allow the $600 billion that von der Leyen negotiated to spend in the United States to actually move out of the European Union. So it looks like she negotiated a deal well beyond her remit. And that deal with Japan, it's not really a deal. Japan is giving the United States $500 billion, essentially a loan at low interest. And so the US economy is looking very sickly indeed. And Mark Carney, I think, recognised that these numbers would come in bad. And all those countries that haven't yet negotiated a trade deal, to paraphrase Donald Trump, I think Donald Trump isn't holding any cards. I think they're holding all the cards. Mark Carney has made a master negotiating tactic, and I think Canada actually is sitting not just strong, but really strong.
So you mean to tell me that we're going to diversify our trade overnight? No, that's probably going to take years, many, many years, if they even want our product to begin with. And with the extra taxes we have from the liberal government, such as the industrial carbon tax, as an example, that's not very competitive. And that's probably the biggest problem Canada faces, is that we are our number one customer because we are taxed to death for all of these things that don't matter, that mean nothing, because the liberals chose to seal off all of that other opportunity from the rest of the world. And as a result, Canada's energy and mining sectors are crippled by red tape, by anti-development policies, and by taxes. Other countries are faster to approve, they're cheaper to operate in by a long shot, and they're also far more politically stable for business. So we're not an attractive supplier at all. We are expensive, unreliable, and a bureaucratic.
So why does all this drama really matter? Okay, the whole thing really matters because Canada is key. Canada is one of US most important suppliers, and that is on period. Okay, we are talking like $2 billion in trade going back and forth every single day. And get this also, Canada is the number one supplier of oil and natural gas to the United States. And that is a huge deal for energy security, especially when you don't want to rely on places like Russia or the Middle East, right? But it's not just about energy. Canadian auto parts, lumber, aluminium, even agriculture, right? They are baked into American supply chains. And when there is tension, it does not just hurt Canada, it also hurts American industries too. And I say that in capital letters. So these two countries are just integrated. Like cars might have parts from both sides of the border and be assembled in a third location. Yeah, something like that. So it's just that if trade slows down, right, it messes up with job, messes up with prices, and messes up with production on both ends. So I'm like, why can they not just come to the middle and come to a conclusion, since this uncertainty affects the two of them? Like, why can they not just decide, right? Let's keep watching.
So what are we at? 4 full days since the United States put these tariffs on the country of Canada. Automobile industry, steel industry, aluminum industry, and there's ripple effects all over the place. I'm in Ajax, it's right next to Oshawa, and there's noise about it. People are talking about it, and they like answers. And we're talking about important jobs in Windsor and up in Sault Ste. Marie, Hamilton. It's Canada's Steel City, right? It's Canada's Pittsburgh. And nobody said anything. We've gone through a long weekend, in Ontario at least. This decision was last Thursday night, leading into August 1st, which is Friday. And yet, what do we hear from Prime Minister Mark Carney? Nothing. Crickets. Silence. He asked for this job. No one pushed him into it. He begged for it. He said to Canadians, I've got the experience. I've got the global connections. I've got the economic foresight to lead us through uncertain times. He said he'd stand tall on the world stage. You heard from him? Seen him? Anything? Nothing? And now the biggest trade challenge of his brief tenure is now. We're in the middle of it. And zero. He gave everybody a coupon to cross a bridge in Prince Edward Island. He walked in the Pride Parade in Vancouver. I had no problem with either of those things if you can handle the big issues. So where's the emergency press conference? Where's the reassurance to all the workers across the country that their jobs are going to be okay? They're not feeling that way right now. They're feeling tremendous stress. It's creating a lot of ripple effect, like we said, and we'll see it in terms of spending across this country. Tariffs like these aren't abstract numbers on a spreadsheet. They affect real people in real jobs in real Canadian towns. And as for all the Liberal MPs, such as the one where I live and the one where you might live, zero, nothing. Summer vacation is in full flight. Again, Prime Minister Carney is a man of some esteem, and he asked for this. He wanted this. He wanted the responsibility, the global spotlight. Well, the spotlight is on you, or at least it should be, sir. And you should be somewhere. This is a moment for leadership, not silence. And sometimes, you know what silence says? You know what it does? It speaks volumes.
At a press conference in PEI today, Carney said we should only sign the right deal. Well, what does that mean? Well, it definitely will mean not what the EU has signed if you look at their reaction. And Carney, being an economist, for sure he's noticed that the euro is down. European stocks down. Not a lot, but they're still down, which speaks to investor reaction to what was signed. And of course, he's going to want to avoid headlines like this and that. So what's next? Obviously, we're all looking to that August 1st deadline. But if you look at the messaging that Carney and other cabinet leaders are using right now, they're saying we need to work on what we can control. And they are spending a lot of time talking to the premiers, traveling across the country. So they're trying to focus on domestic economic changes that they can make. Number two, they're preparing us to accept some tariffs. So if you look at when he is talking about the deal, he is introducing us to this idea that no matter what we end up with, their tariffs are likely going to stay on the table. So who's the winner in all this? Well, in this last week, definitely Trump is coming out on top. Too early to tell if Carney really is going to live up to this great negotiator brand that many people in Canada had high hopes for. At the very least, he seems to be holding out a lot longer than other countries, but based on his messaging today about wanting to remove uncertainty, there's a good chance that they will eventually sign something, even if it's not by Friday. They know that they can't continue like this forever.
Do you guys think we're going to get a trade deal? Because I don't. And the way how Mark Carney's speaking, I don't even think he believes we're going to get a trade deal. Because he said we're not going to sign any deal that isn't right for Canada. Now, before we get into that part, right, what he claimed he means by that is that whatever deal they sign is intent to restore the relationship between Canada and the United States, which I don't think is possible, but whatever, right? But we know from what Donald Trump has said, what his administration has said, is that they are a tariff administration. They believe in tariffs. There will be some form of tariffs either way. So unless you're going to accept the tariffs, even though, and Mark Carney said that, yes, he expects there to be tariffs in the deal. If that's the case, then how does that restore our relationship between the United States and Canada? Because now we do not have a free trade agreement. Because they even want to restructure the USMCA. So are we really going to have a free trade between Canada, the US, and Mexico? Right? And then Doug Ford comes out and says, oh, we need to match the tariffs the US has imposed on us. Now, usually I'm all for Doug, but we know that when the going goes, he'll fold. He'll fold. Just like how he did with the surcharge on the electricity that's going to the United States, he'll fold, right? So I'm just curious, do you guys think we're going to get a trade deal?
Buy more products, Canada, than Japan, China, Korea, UK, and France combined. He needs to focus on his number one customer. And a tariff on Canadians is a tax on Americans. Prices will go up. And we need to find out exactly where he stands. And then after we get this deal, so-called deal, August 1st, and then we face it again, February 2026 on the USMCA.
Anyways, we all know that that ship has sailed because August 1st has come and has gone, and there is still no deal. There is definitely tension, right? But thanks to the USMCA, and if you're wondering what USMCA is, it's standing for the United States Mexico Canada Agreements, right? And it's just how do I explain this in a simple way? It's like a rule book for trade between these three countries. It covers like cutting or eliminating tariffs, labor protection, environmental standards, rules for digital trade like e-commerce and copyright. So it's basically designed to keep trade flowing smoothly and fair across North America, right? So here's the kicker that is there. Over 85% of Canada's exports to the US are still protected under this USMCA. So even with all these new tariffs, most trade is still untouched. So with this 2026 USMCA reveal on the horizon, this is definitely something to watch. Anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comment section. And I'll see you in my next video. Stay safe. Ciao.